The leader is very clear that she wants this to happen, and she's asked me to lead on it, because both the leader and I believe councillors are absolutely the best advocates for their community. They know their communities the best. They know what residents want. So, like I said, it's the start of a process. A phrase that's been around a lot over this weekend is "nothing's off the table" on the topic of the parking review, but it's very much the same here. And we're just keen to listen and put something together, listen to all the voices. Everything's valid. And I think, as you mentioned, Chair, the Chief Executive has got some thoughts to share, but also Tom Horton has put together a brief presentation in order to get the thoughts going. If people wish to make input tonight on the views, that's absolutely fine. I've already started receiving submissions from councillors and officers alike, but there will be a more thorough formal process of consultation, so everybody can be comfortable in the fact that their views can be made known. Tonight is purely the start of that, and it's a pleasure to be able to do that, Chair, so thank you.
Okay. So are we going over to you, Tom, now? Do you want to?
Yeah, can do, unless Harry wants to come in first, but yeah.
Do you want to come in first?
No, the presentation is great. I'll say a few words at the end of it, Chair, if that's okay, and then open it up. Brilliant.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Right, thanks, Councillor Reid. So I'll so you should all received a paper anyway, so it's sort of based on that. But essentially, most of you will know this already, but just so that we're all on the same page. Currently, the neighbourhood forums, as you know, meet quarterly. They are predominantly online, apart from this one, which still meets face-to-face occasionally. As you know, the public meetings, in theory, but with the online versions, attendees are only really watching a live feed, so they're not sort of really in the room, as it were. They're also not meaningfully promoted, so awareness of them that they exist at all is probably quite low. And in terms of sort of interaction, people can submit questions in advance or during the meetings, but really only a handful are being received in the last year, which goes back to that, how aware the public really are. In terms of the agenda, it's decided through conversations between the senior leadership team, Democratic Services and the Chair, and obviously requests for items come through the meetings as well, but I understand there's usually not a great deal, so that the agendas are fairly sort of rigid and centrally driven. So on the sort of limitations that we've identified, as before, the agendas are centrally agreed and driven, and therefore they're more like consultation exercises about borough-wide plans, consulting you as members. So there's not a lot of conversations that happen about the local area. There's not really that flavour of it being about a place or neighbourhood. It's just really asking you about what you think about what's happening across the local authority. There are also no real devolved powers or funding to enable you to really engage residents or local groups and get them interested and motivated to take part in discussions, and really have that sort of leverage to really get them sort of involved in what you're trying to do, and also support them. Resident engagement through the forums is limited, and where it does happen, it's quite topic specific. So questions will be about a case or something like that, or something very specific to that person. And also sort of in line with a lot of that, the resources attached to it are some Democratic Services officers' time, but nowhere near enough of their time for them to add the value that they probably want to and could be able to, so that the resources are not really sufficient to do much more. So in terms of a future model, there are an array of options, right from standing them down completely and not doing anything like that, right through to citizen juries and devolving all sorts of powers. And here on the slide, there's a few examples of the kinds of things that you might see elsewhere as food for thought. So you've got things like problem solving. Ultimately, that's what a lot of them are around. Devolved decision making, so members and residents working together to make decisions. Participatory budgeting, which you probably all know about, but essentially where decisions of how funds are allocated are made by the group, and that can include residents. Supporting community groups and leaders, consulting with residents, which we do already, providing information and resource to building knowledge in communities, increasing accountability with the electorate, both with the council, but also with partners. So obviously another aspect is you can bring partners in like police or health or really whoever. And then finally and ultimately, the main goal would be to improve services. Shown another way and with more detail is through the lens of the engagement spectrum, where you can see along the bottom, it has as you go from the left to the right, an increase in citizen participation. So all of these methods that are on here, the tools and methods at the bottom, are on the table and open for discussion. Right from just monitoring what's happening locally with data or whatever, to informing residents, next one along, about what we're doing, and then moving on to consulting with them about what they think about specific pieces of work, involving them in making decisions through things like co-design, and then finally empowering them to make some decisions, which might be community development, participatory decision making, that kind of thing. So as Councillor Reid said, we're right at the start of the conversation. So it will be helpful to understand your views on some of these big questions that you can see on the slide. Thinking about the current model, what's good and bad with what we've got now, and ultimately, what would success look like to you? Is it something where we have more residents attend and involved, or specific improvements in the local area, for example? And really, at a basic level, what do you want from these processes? And that's me for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Chair, if I could just come in there.
Yeah, you can come in now, Harry.
Just very briefly, Chair, just building on what Councillor Reid and Tom have already said. Tom's presentation had one slide where it looked at a future model, and it highlighted the interest of neighbourhood working to many, many different groups and sectors. And I know in my first couple of months, Chair, in Tameside, the discussions I've had with the NHS, with the education skills sector, with the police, all looking at a new form of neighbourhood working as part of improving services and improving outcomes for residents. Inside the council, when we think 2/3 of the council's resources get spent on adult social care and children's social care, and within those massive areas, again, we're looking at a neighbourhood form of working upstream to try and reduce demand before it hits the council's front door. So it's perfect timing, this review. And that's why I'm delighted that the leader and Councillor Reid said, look, this is bigger than a tweak. And therefore, let's do a proper deep dive, invite all members for their ideas and the views on all issues to do with neighbourhoods. Nothing's off the table, whether the geography of any structures, that's up for discussion as well. And just building on what I've already said, what's fascinating is that in terms of the combined authority and their discussions with government about further devolution, elements of that are also linked to a form of neighbourhood working. So, the combined authority is taking on new powers and responsibilities from April in relation to getting people back to work, improving health outcomes, and the form for that is exploring neighbourhood working. So this review, again, perfectly timed to align with the discussions in the combined authority and further devolution into the 10 local authorities, and some of that potentially devolve further into neighbourhoods. So by way of intro, that's all we wanted to say. And as Councillor Reid said, members might not be in a position tonight to feedback, but it's only the beginning of the review. And so we'll explain after the 4 neighbourhood meetings, and the last one's tomorrow. We'll explain by way of a note how we can take it forward at the review. But we'll leave it there and take any questions, Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right. First, can I start the question? I've got a few notes down. When, for instance, we had Healthy Hide came into the market, and it's a really good thing now because loads of people use it on the Saturday, but nobody knew about it. It would have been good if perhaps our neighbourhood, could have had people to come and explain what it was about, what it was going to do going forward, and invite and have like a public meeting so everybody would know what it was all about. And the same thing with the market. Everything that's going on at the market now, the public don't understand what's happening. If we'd have had a meeting to explain everything that was going on, and then people or invite people to come and get involved and have discussions about what was going on in the market. It would have been better than, you know, people asking us and us having to explain all the time. So that's just my opinion on. I think Neighbourhood, they're good, but I think they need to be more public based. Does anybody else want to say anything?
We've got Councillor North with a hand up.
Councillor North?
Yeah, thanks, Betty. Could you explain how you're going to consult with the public? Because obviously, this is one of the few, I think, forums that actually has met in person quite a lot. But the last time a member of the public turned up, I understand, was January 2024. And overall, the average number of people turning up or turning into these meetings is between 1 and 3, I'm told. And they are extremely expensive meetings. So, yeah, how are we going to involve the public in this consultation? And secondly, I'm very glad you mentioned geography, because I am not sure that residents in Longdendale feel aligned with the South Strategic Neighbourhood Forum.
I think, you know, as we've said, nothing's off the table, and this is very much, you know, we want to make it work from the bottom up. In terms of making changes, in terms of the public, you're absolutely right. It's about that, and it's about it's chicken and egg really. How do we get people interested? But how do we involve them in the first place? It's that, and the district assembly model of old, which has been heralded across the board, every single meeting I've been to, really was ideal. It's just about capturing that. And I mean, we've seen, I think since COVID, it's had such an impact in terms of people's interactions. And Tom will say with the pen, the number of people that attend, it really is. I mean, something I always say, I say it with planning, I say it with communities, the thing that motivates people is an issue, and lines on a plan. It's a planning application, it's the highway, but it's things that happen on their street. So it's how do we bring that forward to a neighbourhood forum? I mean, looking at the Stockport model, they consider planning applications as part of theirs, and they have a recommendation. They look at event notifications. So again, you've got that more public interest, but making it relevant. It's people's streets, it's the clean, safe streets, as they always profess. That motivates people, but also as well looking across the borough with ward funds, and this is a piece of work that Tom and I have discussed. We give ward funds to community groups. So where's the carrot and stick? Where's the social value? Where's the, will you come back to us and help us out with such and such a thing as well? So Tom's going to do a piece of work across the borough, mapping out who gets ward funds and how we can best utilise that to fully involve the public. But I think as far as like Harry's view as well, and we've discussed this at length, is services are better delivered closer to home, taking services to people as opposed to getting them to come to something. And I think that applies here as well. So like I said, nothing's off the table. We had a public meeting last week in Denton South with the police, and the police are a massive draw because everyone wants to talk about social behaviour. So it's what works for the public and not making what we think motivates the public to come along. But like I said, it's, you know, it's starting process. It's something I'm really passionate about, because nothing matters more than the people who live in the borough, fundamentally. So yeah, and geography, again, nothing's off the table. We've had the same question actually from Councillor Billington at the Staley Bridge discussion. So, you know, again, if that's the view, then we'll look at how we can make it best work for the people of all the wards and all the towns.
Bill, I can see your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just want to echo two comments, really. Firstly, yours regarding the Hyde Market. There's been a lot of misinformation going about at the moment from a certain individual who's disgruntled from being on it. So I think something regarding a bit of a comms push regarding that could be useful, and a meeting that we could have had through the neighbourhood forums to invite people could have just took away anybody's fears of what's going on. And as point regarding the district assemblies, also they were before my time, and I remember former councillor John Bell saying what a great advocate of them he was. So something like that could be brought back, where the public have a real say in what's going on. Like I said, planning applications coming back, which roads are going to be resurfaced, etc., etc. Something like that could be well worthwhile. But these four neighbourhood forums that we've been having ever since their inception, they've just, my own personal view, I just think they've been a complete waste of time. It's the same briefing that each neighbourhood has. You don't really get anything from it. I think we can move forward and have something relevant will benefit us all. Thank you.
I think you're absolutely right, Phil, on the comms thing as well, because it's another forum, a public-facing forum for us to get our message about. We are all here for the right reasons. We're here for our communities, and like you said, it's the misinformation, so it's an opportunity to again just reiterate the message. And I'm here, I'm on your side, and this is my. So I think that's a really important one. And as you say, the former Councillor Bell, great advocate of District Assembly working.
Is there anybody else that I can't see wants to?
Yeah.
Okay, Peter.
In Hyde, we've had a group called Hyde Together. It brought different factions in, and it was a real big success. And going back to the previous speaker, the district assemblies, I was there at the beginning of them. And having the police and the fire officers there and the members of the public being able to ask questions was the biggest thing. It's important that we actually are there to answer the questions, not just to make presentations. And I think that's why this has been, the present format's been the biggest mistake, really. And Councillor North was saying they're expensive. Well, if we get the public on side or not on side, let them express their views, surely that's value for money, instead of, like Phil was saying, misinformation. And it only takes one or two people to spread a rumour, especially with today's technology. And why can't we rotate? If Hattersley and Londondale don't feel part of it, why can't we have a meeting at the centre in Hattersley? Why can't we have a meeting in Newton? Because Newton feels isolated because of the motorway. And a lot of people won't come into Hyde in the evening time because of the relevant transport facilities. So we could explain, take on all the views on the B network. Things like that. Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
And Chair, these are the exact points that we're hoping to get back from this initial discussion and through the review. I know in my short time here, a number of people have referred back, and quite rightly, to the District Assembly days, because actually, if you remind yourself, Tameside had beacon status, which was for that. But what we shouldn't do is just say we want that back again, because there was probably some elements. So take the best of it and feed that into the review, and let's those with longer memories or who actually even better were part of it, feed that into the review, and if they can, say these are the best bits and these are the bits that we'll probably not want to repeat. But going back to the question I think that was posed probably by the chair, how do we get people there? People will only turn up, particularly at 6 o'clock on a cold, wet night, if there's a real reason for them to come, and either it's an issue based or they can add value, influence spending on some issues, environment, or have a say in inform big decisions about planning. These are the things we want to get right. And I was alluding to other things, where we can actually save money. If we can promote in each of the neighbourhoods voluntary groups and give them some resources on well-being activities, then it takes pressure. It definitely does reduce pressure on mainstream adult social care and NHS, both of which heading towards bankruptcy if we're not careful. So there's a win-win here. And to see the voluntary sector mobilised in each of the areas with some extra resources, because it's never for free, it could be a really powerful movement. And we build it back to what it was, because Tameside had a fantastic reputation for that. So we really do urge people to feed through in the review in the coming weeks.
Thanks, Harry. Anybody else want anything to say? No?
Chair, sorry, I was just, it's Tom. I was just, in response to Councillor North's question about the how we will consult with the public, I think ultimately it will have to be a sort of multi-platform approach, from traditional surveys and things like that through to convening a partnership engagement network. But then ultimately, I think we will have to go out into communities to have these equivalent conversations about what it is they want. And as Harry said, with partners as well, because third sector partners are going to be an intrinsic part of these kinds of things. So we'll definitely need their input. So we haven't got the exact specific route planned out, but it will definitely be a multifaceted consultation exercise. So we'll watch this space, and we'll let you know more as soon as we develop it.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, I think all we need is the date of the next meeting then. Louis, I can't see you, Louis, anywhere.
Yeah, the date of the next meeting. Apologies. The date of next meeting is on the 24th of March.
24th of March. Okay. And I'll say again, anybody's got anything at all that they want to bring up to the next meeting, please let me know in the next couple of weeks, and then we can get it onto the agenda. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, and I'll see you all again next time.
Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Thank
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.